So hello, it's Michelle Ansell from Douglas Jackson, and today I am delighted to be joined by Lara Barnes. Lara is a Spotlight winner for 2024, which is a list full of inspiring women who have had incredible journeys and made a big impact in the field of customer success over the course of their careers. Lara has also led multiple award-winning customer success teams and worked for leading SaaS and technology businesses, including Sitecore, Oracle, Microsoft and Facebook. A high achiever, transformational leader, and a highly collaborative individual. I'm delighted to have Lara with us today and can't wait to hear more from her. Hello, Lara. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much, Michelle, for having me on this.
Not at all. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing about you. Do you want to give us a little bit of an introduction, I suppose, to yourself before we get into it?
Yeah, so I've been in customer success a good 15 years as it truly is. Before that, it was client services, but with SaaS and the effective learning on the learning curve I've been through over the past 15 years, it's the customer success industry has really changed and become a lot more sophisticated and still continues to, and we'll go into some of those things as it needs to develop. However, my past 7 years I've been working at Sitecore, left recently to pursue other areas and do it all over again. But I've spent the past 7 years building the customer success function from scratch, and I did everything from building the team to 75, including a renewals team of 15. So it's 90. Amazing individuals who have grown with me over that period of time, and a lot of them actually came with me. A number of them came with me from Oracle, but have stayed with me all that time. And we built an incredible culture and ethos around how we serviced our customers, and it was a real journey because we went from perpetual to subscription contracting to SaaS. We bought 4 companies during that time, so pivoting the team from perpetual to SaaS management was quite a journey, as well as building out all the operational capability, effectively our customer platform as well that we used via Gainsight, and how and what we did with all the data and the analysis around it, and what we drove. We drove incredible results with increased NPS, increased advocacy, and we were wholly focused on GRR and NRR. But we drove an amazing amount of a very significant number of the booked business every quarter, and our leads were converting at 45-50%. So we had a really incredible relationship with sales in the end, because we were working and driving so much with them that whole customer life cycle I did across the business was probably one of the proudest things I did in terms of wider collaboration, as an example. And we identified all of the gaps across 12 departments, and we continued to plug those gaps, and so our customers would have a much better customer experience. So yeah, it was a busy time. It never stopped. It never let up. We achieved a hell of a lot in that.
Absolutely, and some fantastic results. And I mean, just to pick you up on a couple of things that you said, or get into it a little bit more before the question, because I know in the customer experience world, there's a lot of people in customer experience that, because they've seen the rise of customer success now as a title, it's like, well, a customer success role will suit me, but they are very different. And you've mentioned, that 45% retention or conversion, wasn't it? And you mentioned terms like GRR and NRR. Can you explain those? And the role is very much more, as you say, linked to sales, isn't it? And that revenue generation, builder, custodian of revenue, and that's not typically the case generally within CX or customer service, is it?
No, because you have very different metrics that you're working across. With CX, it's all about ensuring that the customer journey, the onboarding, the adoption of that customer is paramount for the success of that customer. But depending on what type of business you're in, there's obviously, sorry, with CX, you're really looking at lifetime value, and you're looking at the CAC in terms of acquisition costs to really how that customer is effectively adopting the platform and the longevity, the lifetime value of that customer. Whereas depending on what type of business it is, and where I really gravitate towards is the commercial side. So we are very much there to help our customers with that onboarding and implementation and getting that customer to adoption. But overlaying that, we're looking at a lot of the data analysis on how and what our customers are doing with regards to telemetry. And I put that in too within the products because we had no insights. But we also are very much looking at where those customers are succeeding, how are we helping the sales team drive additional examples, but what leads could we be passing that sales team to go in and close? So we're really their kind of source, another really strong source of leads. You don't just have the SDR team or the sales team or the partner team doing that. We were actually performing so well. Our conversion rate was the highest and by double. So we knew exactly what was going on in those customers, so we could really identify how those customers needed further help and would our products really help them to do that. So we were the trusted advisor within that customer, and then we would then find the right salesperson to come in and help us identify whether that was the opportunity and whether that that business then closed. And that one helped the sales team, helped the overall company, and we were contributing to the bottom line. So, that's where the justification of having those customer success teams really are.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we'll talk more about it as we get on, but thank you for that. So, I mean, as someone who has done and achieved a great deal in customer success, which we've touched on, where do you think the function is today then?
In terms of customer success?
Yeah.
In terms of where the function is, I would say depending on what company you're in, but within the SaaS area, there are those economic pressures, and we've started to see that across numbers of companies where they've been removing their customer success teams. And I would say it's a very short-term measure. And I would say that within the next 12 to 18 months, when they start seeing the churn increase and the customer experience coming down, they'll start to reintroduce those customer teams yet again, because a number of businesses have removed those CS teams and put the role of managing the renewal and managing the account and managing the cross-sell upsell onto an AE. And that AE's role is to go in and sell, not to manage accounts and effectively do renewals.
And an AE would be an account executive.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say it's a very, very challenging role, depending on how many customers they have. But I'm sure they've got more than 5 in their business, their book of business. So I would say that over the next 18 months, I'd say that many customer teams will start to be recruited back into companies, probably not at the same size as they had, maybe with a smaller remit, but maybe they would move more into, and I would suggest they did, move more into the CX side, because the customer experience is something that as we move forward in customer success, we should absolutely be much more focused on customer experience to ensure that you retain those customers, because the loyalty there is paramount to retention. And for any of those SaaS businesses, their book of business, their install base needs to be retained in order for the continuous growth. Otherwise, we're not recruiting as many new customers now as we were a few years ago. And so that has really impacted the bottom line in many of these businesses. And that's why they've needed to do a lot of the cost cutting, because it's all about increased margins.
Yeah. And it's interesting as you speak, and obviously we've already just talked about customer experience and customer success and the 2 different careers. But I think, the 2 roles combined are hugely powerful, or a customer success, if we say a future, chief customer officer, if they have the customer success commerciality, the sales, and that insight drive, as well as then that customer experience element, I think that in some respects is, really powerful, and what most businesses seem to struggle. They either have one or the other, perhaps.
And I think where businesses don't haven't yet tied it all together end to end is by utilizing that customer journey properly with data. and then utilizing that data and understanding what's happening at the beginning of the chain and aligning those customer expectations to the end, which is delivering the value. And once you can actually get to that, and every team across the business understands their role in managing the customer, even product should be measured on customer retention, because the product there is should be built for adoption and easy use. So you don't actually have teams of people post sales trying to get the customer to adopt it. It should just be easy. And if you tie up all of those different data metrics across the life cycle, you can really start to see how and where you're falling down in your customer journey. And that will help in, one, driving loyalty, because you'll get ahead, you'll get in front of those customer problems. But two, those customers will see that you're effectively trying much, much harder than their other vendors. And then that retention then comes because you're moving towards the value side of what they need. If you're not delivering value, it's very easy, like we've seen over the past couple of years, for businesses to say, okay, we're going to review all of our vendors, and the ones that we're not actually getting any value from, we'll just cut because we're just not getting the value, so therefore we don't need it. Or we'll go and choose a half price system because we're not using all the functionality anyway. We bought that Ferrari and we're only using it as, you know, a Ford. It's really, we should just buy the Ford because that's all we're using it for internally, and we don't have the capability. Or even some of these products are so complicated that you can't get the value out of it unless you spend loads of money on professional services or a partner to really eke out and ensure that you're using that platform. So it's down to value, and it's down to the expectation management too.
Interesting, because when we spoke last, you said something really interesting to me, because you touched on a conversation that you had with somebody in your team about the stretching targets ahead, and how you were filled with absolute surety about the fact that your team would achieve them. So can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so every year I would have a new strategy. So every year we iterated upon what we had built the previous year. So that's why we achieved so much and we were going great guns. So the targets that I would set would be, we work very closely with finance on GRR and NRR as to what the target was for that year. But how we were contributing and what I could really control was the number of advocacy customers. So whether those are customers that are taking prospect calls, or whether they're standing on stage, or whether they're doing a case study with us because of the work that we've worked with them on. There would also be the CSQLs, that these are the customer success qualified leads that we put over to the sales team that were closing at 45%. And then also we would have some telemetry and adoption metrics. But the biggest one we had last year was I said that we would take effectively a 20-25% increase in our target and in the CSQLs. And so my team said to me, how are we ever going to do that, Lara? How have you even come up with that number? Like, we did that last year and it was a struggle. How do you expect to increase that now? And I said to them, well, if we go and we work with, we delivered, a good 20, I can't remember the numbers now for the previous year. I think we delivered 15 million. And I said, right, I think we could go 20, 21 million. And in terms of closed booked. And so I said, we should really take that as a target. And I've agreed it with my boss anyway. And they're like, this isn't possible. And I said, well, if we went back to the sales team and we wholly dug into the foundations of what we built on last year, we went in and we worked with those salespeople. We went to their sales meetings every Monday. We were visible in their sales calls. We were talking about our leads. We were hounding down the salespeople to close off those leads, to accept them. And we were working with the managers. Surely our leads are going to get a lot of attention. And so that's what we did. We really, really worked with those regions and we delivered the results. And it was by Christmas, it was when we had that marker And one of my leaders came back to me and said, I just never believed it in July when you set those targets that it was going to work. And now we were delivering it. I mean, we were delivering 50 million leads a year.
Wow.
So those leads were significant, and there was
Yeah.
8 to 10 million still left in the pot when we came out of the fiscal year. So they're still being worked on now. But it was, I think for me, it's about belief in what you can do and understanding what your opportunity is, and then working backwards to deliver it. And I don't know, I feel quite privileged. I see everything end to end. So I see the problem, and then I just have all these things that come in my mind as to how we get there. And that's how I operate. So it's worked every single year. And there were so many times my team did say to me, I don't know how we're going to do it. And then we did it.
It's so interesting, and that belief point, I mean, and that working with the end in mind, and then, as you say, breaking it down and just doing the daily actions, isn't it? You know, with that laser focus, so much can be achieved. But I think we hear it all the time, you know, every team, when you get these sales targets or even whatever targets they are, and they're always raised or, you know, stretch, and you're just like, oh my God, the immediate reaction we go is, we're never going to be able to do that, rather than, well, okay, let's just map it out. Let's start there. We've succeeded. Now, that what does that need to look like?
There's always a way to break it down, even if you chunk it out into different ways of actually achieving that whole goal, and then actually go after those, and for a few months see which ones work out of 4 or 5 strategies, and then literally go for that. So there's always ways. And the barriers that I've ended up coming up against over the time I was there, and you know, it's a long time to be in one company and also build what we built, but the barriers, you can always work around barriers. There's always people that you can work around. People that are barriers, there's always
yeah, absolutely. So fundamentally, you believe that knowing that matters, what matters, and committing to those action needed every day, you know, to work towards those longer term goals will deliver ultimately those desired results. I mean, for those who are listening, you know, who haven't been smashing those targets, where would you help them start? Is there sort of, you know, 2 or 3 things that are your go-tos, if you like?
Yeah, like I said to you, I've been breaking it down. So if the target's 20 million and you think, how the hell am I going to do 20 million? It was only 10 million last year, or 12 million. How can I get that stretch? It is literally about breaking down that. How are you going to find that other 8 million? And a lot of the time it is the people that you have working for you. It's being very specific on the tasks that they're doing. And actually, I am a sucker for just keeping on and keeping that pressure up, because as soon as you let that pressure go, 2 or 3 months has passed and, you know, you've lost 2 or 3 months. So I am one to continuously ensure that we are on target. So I'm very much about the consistency. I would also say that the people that you have working for you are incredibly important to you. It's not all about you coming up with the solution. There are, you know, I had 7 incredible leaders and they all had amazing ideas, and we would do certain brainstorming events where we would sit together, even if it's just for an hour, and say, right, what are the things that we need to really focus in on over the next 2 months, and where are the things we're really trying to, you know, we're falling down on, what do we need to do? And somebody would come up with an amazing idea, and then we would pursue that, and there'd be 2 or 3, usually 2 or 3 amazing ideas, and we'd pursue that. I also use those individuals in very different ways. So there are, you know, not all, everyone's got very, very different skill sets, and I recruited people that, 1, would complement each other, but 2, would complement what we needed to achieve overall. And I always recruit people that with the skill set that I don't actually have as well, because I just in awe of those people, because I don't have all the answers. So utilizing your people is also really important, but also I'd say your network is incredibly important, and the people across the business that are part of the team that you need to be collaborating with, there's always gold within each of those individuals as well. and they look at things, particularly the sales team, they look at things in a completely different way to the way a customer success person would, because they're looking at it from the benefit of the customer. Always we're representing that customer, and they're, you know, if you're there with a target, it's working with those individuals that should be there closing the business. I mean, there's very few customer success teams that I know, but I do think it's moving towards that, where they will be closing business. It's usually they pass the leads back to the sales team. So yeah, network across the business is also very important, and there's always resources out there to go and find out from others in your network in other companies how they're doing it.
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you for that. So as we've spoken about, you know, you've won multiple awards and helped your teams to do the same, and you've had a great deal of recognition in customer success as a female leader as well, which is great. We know that the STEM sector is a challenge for attracting female and diverse talent generally. I mean, do you think customer success is a good way to sort of do that and encourage more sort of female talent into what is a very, or can be very technical sector?
Yeah, I believe that the customer success area, there's a lot of women within customer success.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of opportunity to go out there and show what you're about. I think the other opportunity is if you're women in a woman in a tech business as well, you can shine, because there really aren't that many women that stay in leadership positions that climb the ladder. I mean, look at most ELTs. There are only women that probably sit in the maybe in legal, maybe in HR, maybe there's, you know, some women in finance, but the rest of the opportunities are all taken by men. So I would say that customer success can be a way of elevating yourself and showing that you can really make a difference in a business. I think there's also an element of, if you're stepping into, I'm not a sales girl, you know, I enjoy the chase of commercial targets, but I'm not that CRO, and I never want to be a CRO. But I would really love sitting on the side of the customer, and I love looking at how you grow those customers over time by servicing them really well and providing them with other products that can enhance their whole strategy and tech stack. So the awards are an incredible recognition of how hard you actually work to get there. And it has been, a journey. I've near enough killed myself at many points to get there. But I put myself under that pressure.
Well, well done. And I think it's interesting when you speak, because there's so many, as you know, doing what I do when I talk to people, so many people tell me what they don't want to do more as much as they do what they do want to do. But so many people, it's just, I don't want to do sales. I'm not a salesperson, you know, yet your version of sales versus you are obviously an incredible revenue builder, you know, and your commercialization, and as you say, but you look at it from a perspective of, I'm doing better for the customer, I'm helping the customer succeed, but also the business is then succeeding, and then there's sales on top of that. And I think sometimes that's a barrier in the customer world, because we see the customer and then I mean, I remember, even it's crazy. I remember when I used to work back in insurance way back in the day, you know, 20 plus years ago. And I remember the first time I was asked to, you know, if I gave a car insurance quote, can you ask them when the house insurance is due for renewal? And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm not going to do that, you know. And then you do it, and you go, and oh yeah, I would be interested, you know, because you may be helping the customer as much as you're helping the business. And I think, you know, we see this split between sales and customer, and actually it should all hopefully bind together to get better results for everybody, really.
I also believe that if you are smart enough to step into the commercial arena in a customer success role, I really believe that is where it's going. If you aren't if you aren't commercial yet, I would start looking at
Yeah, I
being
agree.
commercial and looking at the data that you have within your remit in order to show the rest of the business how they could be growing the business. Because you if you're just a cost base within the business, you're at risk of being cut when times get hard.
Yeah.
But if you are a real revenue generator and you understand the customer journey and you're focused in on getting those customers to adopt and retain them, you're in a better position.
Yeah. Really strong one, I think. And I mean, when you look at customer success as a career, where do you think it leads to? What are the opportunities available, do you think, to people who go into that career?
Oh God, I think it's really pretty wide, because not only in terms of being a customer success manager, you've got, you're managing customers, you're in there with really big brands and you're talking to them about their strategy. You're then helping them adopt the platform that they have bought from you to achieve certain goals and achieve those success metrics. And then, your driver as a CSM should be to drive value. So you're really delving into just with one product or one area of their whole business, but you're really driving their strategy. And that's pretty satisfying as a career to help a business do that. You also build incredible relationships along that way. You've got all of your internal relationships, because you not only are mixing with the sales team, but you're also working with marketing on certain events or advocacy. You're working with product because you need to be feeding back customer queries or the requests for new features or the issues and red events that are happening within that account. You're also working with engineering. You're working with professional services because you might need to sell in some PS work. You're feeding back into learning as well, knowledge and learning, for the training that they may need for enhancing their skills at the customer side. And then you're also working with support. So you've got so many departments that you're representing that customer against. And so you've got all of these understandings across the whole life cycle of a customer within your business. So you're getting to talk to lots and lots of different areas. And I just think it's an exceptionally satisfying career. I've absolutely loved working in customer success. And I know that moving forward, there's going to be so many more areas around customer success that's going to be enhanced, whether it be with data and utilizing that data across the whole CX side, and the analytics and identifying customers that look like your most successful customers, and really going out and selling and growing those customers, to the AI capability that's coming in. We're not quite there yet. And there aren't that many companies really adopting it from a customer success perspective, like in terms of tangible examples. They might be using it on support and chatbots. And, the next stage of that is obviously personalized experiences on chatbots. But you can only go so far with AI, because customers' queries can be exceptionally complicated. And so, you can really pick off all of the easy tasks and become a bit more efficient, as long as you have that underlying data capability to do that. And you can flood the AI tool that you're using with the amount of content that you may have. And lots of companies just don't have that level of content as yet. So that's it's a journey everyone's got to go on. But AI is really going to enhance how we operate and just be more efficient, so we can spend more time with customers rather than be in all the manual tasks.
And of course, we're seeing the adoption of the Chief Customer Success Officer as well now, aren't we? And, we're seeing people from those roles moving to even CEO, as well as other sort of board level roles. So as we've spoken about, I think it's, it's so central to the business. And if it understands the customer, the journey, as you say, the business needs and the commercialization, it really has everything other than the sort of finance and legal sides and HR, of course. But so excellent. Was there anything else that you wanted to share or discuss then, Lara?
Yeah, I think with that, chief customer officer role, when looking at it and they're owning all of those components post sale, you really can have such an incredible understanding with the data. And I don't think many people really delve into the data analytics across the whole business enough in order to do the predicting and predicting out that retention of that customer or the churn of that customer, and then getting ahead of it in time, whether it be 6 to 9 months before that renewal. And utilizing those data capabilities really help with the strategies for success. And then it comes down to the challenges I've had, which is around that centralized data depository and the data quality. And that is paramount, right? You have to have the quality. Now, all the data systems, whether it be your finance systems, your billing systems, your licensing systems, your customer data systems, your sales systems, they all need to be flowing in and join up to have that whole capability to do the predictive side with AI. And that is where I believe the customer success, it will have a greater impact on businesses overall, because they're looking at everything end to end.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It's been really enjoyable talking to you, and you come from obviously bringing some things that we haven't spoken about so much on the Impact Room around sort of customers. So I know it's going to be really valuable to so many. So thank you for that, Lara.